Hello everyone and welcome back to another live movie nights video. I didn't have that intro really prepared, but guys, this is the open spoiler discussion for episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again. They have officially aired on Disney+. I plan on doing live spoiler discussions after each episode airs. However, I did Wednesday this time because we posted our full review for Daredevil Born Again yesterday, and I wanted to give that video some room to breathe. And by the way, that review is for the full season of Daredevil Born Again, all 9 episodes, which Disney was very fortunate enough, or I was very fortunate enough to have received them from Disney. Disney's very kind in doing so. And so if you want a review of the whole season, completely spoiler-free, you can go check that out on the channel. After we do the stream, I will add it to the description of this video in case you come by later and want to check it out. So that'll be fun. Something else that I want to talk about up front is how this is really going to work. I'm basically going to ramble to the Nethersphere, to this lovely camera, until essentially I feel like stopping. And with that, though, we're obviously going to be talking spoilers for episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again. But if you are here watching live and you mention something in the live chat, I'm also here to talk with you. Any questions that pop up in the live chat, I will address directly, and I will answer all questions that are put in there. Please do not feel obligated to send any super chats or anything like that, but if you do, I will prioritize those first and answer those first. But it's mostly to just kind of ramble into the Nethersphere on YouTube and just talk about this show and this character that I love oh so dearly. At one point, I may need to take a break if I ramble for too long, so, don't worry, it won't be a huge issue. But if you're here watching, or if you're here watching afterwards, please go in the comments and also talk about things that you liked. I'll happily go in afterwards and respond. And without further ado, let's kind of dive into it. So, first off, I think something that's very important to talk about is just kind of my history with this character, with this show. I'm a huge fan of the Daredevil comic books, particularly the Frank Miller run, and if you've seen the old studio, if you've watched for any period of time, the old studio, I used to have all the comic books on the wall behind me, and most of them were Daredevil. I'm very proud of my extensive Daredevil comic book collection. Big fan of the character. My first introduction was obviously the 2003 Daredevil movie when I was a kid. I was just kind of soaking it up after the X-Men films and the Spider-Man movie came out. But I was really, interested when I saw that movie. It was my first real introduction to the character. And then at that same time, I was watching the reruns of the 90s animated Spider-Man show, and there was a huge crossover event with Daredevil and a bunch of Daredevil characters. And they actually made a DVD. I used to have the DVD of, the Spider-Man Daredevil crossover episodes from that animated world, which was a lot of fun to have, a lot of fun to watch. And so I became, very fascinated with the character, really loved the character, and just sort of consuming him in the comic books all the way up until I was in high school. And when I was in high school, that is when the deal got announced where Netflix was going to be making shows with Marvel Television, which was separate from Marvel Studios, but that they were going to be in the MCU, and that they were going to do Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the Defenders. And eventually, of course, famously, they made another deal for Punisher after he had appeared on Daredevil Season 2. And this show, this character, this particularly the Charlie Cox iteration, runs so deep that I begged my dad in high school to purchase and subscribe to Netflix so that I could watch Daredevil. That was the reason my family got Netflix. And because as soon as they made the announcement, they made the announcement late 2013 or early 2014, and for months I was like, Dad, sometime in the next 2 years we're going to get Daredevil, we have to have Netflix. And eventually we got Netflix, and of course, history from there. I'm a massive fan of the Netflix Daredevil show. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's very near and dear to my heart. Sorry that my dog is going crazy if you can hear him. But, so naturally, in the 7-year drought that we've had, let's go back to No Way Home a little bit first. Obviously the hype for Spider-Man No Way Home was huge, mostly just for the returning Spider-Man characters, but it was kind of rumored that maybe Charlie Cox could make an appearance, but, it was nothing confirmed, nothing official. And then actually on Hawkeye, and I used to react on this channel. You can actually see my reaction on this channel to Kingpin showing up in Hawkeye. I lost my shit. I was so excited to see Vincent D'Onofrio on there, although in the finale at the time, it was very clearly going to be a different iteration of Kingpin, not in the performance, but in the writing. And it was just okay, this is interesting, although I had hope. I'm I hope eventually that this is the Netflix version of that character, because those shows were always pitched as canon to the audience, just Marvel Studios didn't make them. So I understand like the difficulty they were having there. And then the next day, that aired on a Wednesday, I think. And then Thursday night, opening night, went to Spider-Man No Way Home. Fucking Charlie Cox is in it. Lost my mind in the theater again. Huge deal. And then it confirmed that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio were going to be the Daredevil and Kingpin, but they kept playing coy. And if you watch this channel for any number of years, me and Nick, my podcast partner, would always argue, like, is it canon? Is it not canon? They keep playing coy. They won't just say it. They won't just say it's not or that it is. And, through that journey, eventually you got Daredevil popping up on She-Hulk, which, say what you want about the She-Hulk show. It's not a very good show. I don't think it's as awful as people said it was, but it wasn't very good. But the Daredevil appearance in the Daredevil episode was very good, and Charlie Cox did a great job. Naturally, the tone was very different than we're used to, but it was kind of taking a character and putting them in the tone in the world of She-Hulk, so, like, it made sense. And again, all the dialogue and all the announcements, it was very coy on, like, is this the Daredevil we know? Is it not the Daredevil we know? What's going on here? And then eventually you got to Echo. And Echo, in the marketing to Echo, they started putting like Daredevil clips in the trailers. And it's like, that's Kingpin from the Netflix show in that trailer. That's weird. And then, even better, right before Echo launched, like the day before or the day of, they officially canonized those shows, put them in the MCU timeline on Disney+. And it was the biggest day to rejoice in my household. I was so fucking excited. They were always MCU to me, but to see it kind of be officially accepted by the Marvel Studios section was just a great day. It was a great day for me. It was a great day for everybody, which eventually took us on the journey of this show, which we later found out when they initially shot the show before the writer's strike and before the creative overhaul that it went through, that it straight up was not going to be connected to the Netflix show. They were going to keep some of the backstories and some of the things the same, but it wasn't going to be officially that. And they were going to kind of say it was a soft reboot. And then they came in, they retold it. They had to keep a lot of the footage they already shot just for money reasons, but they had a whole new pilot, a whole new final 2 episodes, and they shot a bunch of footage in between the footage that they had throughout the season to make it like one cohesive story. And here we are, finally, Daredevil Born Again. Like I said, I have seen the full season. I'm not going to be spoiling anything past episodes 1 and 2, and I'll be going week to week, and I won't give, if anyone in the comments like asks for hints or makes theories, I will not. My poker face will be so strong, I will not give anything away. I promise you. I promise you. So, with that down, let's kind of talk about the meat of these episodes, particularly the first 10 minutes of episode 1. And that is, of course, again, huge spoiler warning if you haven't watched it. I've rambled for 8 minutes to try to get you to figure out we're going to be spoiling it, but they got Foggy. Foggy Nelson died at the hands of Agent Poindexter Bullseye. Now, it was such a weird feeling. Like, I was devastated. Like, I won't lie, I shed a tear the first time I watched it. I love the Foggy Nelson character. I love Elden Henson's portrayal of the Foggy Nelson character. It was tough to see. But, him, the story that it's setting up for Matt, I think, is going to be very compelling and very interesting. And it is, because I've seen it all. But when I was watching it at the time, in the mindset of when I first watched it, I was like, okay, I can kind of see where they're going with this, especially when you get this really epic fight between Daredevil and Bullseye, which was conflicting to watch because I'm like, man, this is an awesome fight, but like they're going to kill Foggy, and I'm very sad. But the moment that Matt, which first of all, Charlie Cox absolutely kills the performance, you feel the pain, and Deborah and Woll as well. That moment when Daredevil just pushes Bullseye off the roof, just pushes him right off, and Bullseye hits the ground, first of all, completely justifies the story they're telling with the death of Foggy and Matt crossing that line and it really affecting him viscerally, physically, emotionally. But Deborah Ann Woll, when Bullseye hit the ground behind her and she thought for a second that it was Matt, and she was just dreading turning around to see one dead friend in front of her and there was going to be another one behind her, top tier shit, top tier acting, top tier directing. Lovely. Benson and Moorhead, their visual style is great. Dario Scartapane, excellent job writing the script on the first episode. But, after that opening, of course, we then time jump 1 year. And we see Matt at his new law firm, which I believe is Murdoch and McDuffie. And we see Kirsten McDuffie there, who we got introduced to in that opening scene. We also got introduced to Cherry, the new private investigator, and the other cop that works with him. Her name, of course, is leaving me now. But, we get introduced to those characters. It was nice to see Josie and Josie's bar again. But after we time jump, we kind of see where everyone's at in the world now. We see that Fisk has now returned to New York City after being gone for a while, that they kind of establish an echo. You see Vanessa running shit, which I thought was actually very cool and very interesting to see. Vanessa kind of being the Kingpin. She even wore white, like as Kingpin would do. And, seeing him come back, and he, I think, is not lying to himself when he says, like, I am a different man and I want to help the city. Of course, we all know that's not going to stay that way, but I don't feel like he was bullshitting when he first was saying that. I think he was being genuine. And, you see him announce his candidacy, which throws Matt for a fucking loop. You see him win the election, which Matt was really thrown off by. And, like, that moment where he just stops and just kind of says he won. Like, that, like, you really felt that. And it was a bit, a bit of a parallel to the real world there. But, that was a great scene. I thought the introduction to Heather Glenn was really well done. I like that Kirsten lied to both of them and told Matt that she needs a lawyer and told her that he's in need of a therapist. And of course, when they meet and they, have a nice little meet cute, I thought that the acting was well done. I thought the writing was well done. And you buy that these two eventually would get into a relationship, and they, won't tell Kirsten because they don't want to give her the satisfaction that she's right. Although I love the line that Matt says when he's like, by the way, you can give me your phone number just so I can text her and apologize for your inappropriate behavior. I thought that was funny. To me, though, the highlight of the episode was the diner conversation between Fisk and Matt. Now, leading up to it, you see him. I'm a slut for self-aware dialogue. I love self-aware dialogue, and seeing Fisk kind of come out of the building he was in, and as an audience, like, oh, that's Matt that he's going to see, and he just goes, "It's been some time, hasn't it?" And it cuts to wide, and Matt's there. Like, you can't help but get chills as a fan. You're like, yes, God, they rarely get scenes together. I can't wait to see this. And of course, as they walk away, they play the original Daredevil theme on an organ, it sounded like. By the way, the opening credits, I'll quickly jump back to them. They look gorgeous. I do miss the old Daredevil opening and the opening theme. They bring back notes of the theme in the opening with the, do, do, do. They bring that towards the end. But I will admit, I do miss the theme. However, I think the new opening looks gorgeous. And I think for the most part throughout the show, the Newton brothers have done a really good job with the music. That diner scene, obviously very, very, very reminiscent of Heat and other sequences like that. And by the way, it's the same diner that Daredevil and Elektra ate at in season 2 of Daredevil, same diner. And this sequence was great. It was nail-biting. It was perfect. Their chemistry, of course, we know already is just unbelievable as actors. And seeing them just eat up the scenery. I love the sequence where Fisk says, I tried to mentor somebody, but it didn't really work out. And Matt just goes, "Didn't she shoot you in the face?" Just talking about Echo. And, that's when you get the incredible line from Matthew where he tells Fisk, like, "Look, I was raised to believe in grace. So if you say that you're a changed man, I'll believe you. However, I was also raised to believe in retribution. So if you step out of line, I will be there." And then Fisk giving him the equal warning of, like, when I'm elected, not if, when I'm elected, I'm going to be going against masked vigilantes. So if you dip back into your old activities, there will be consequences. And it really just, sets up the season right there of what their stories are going to be. And I thought it was exceptionally well done. Then you get to where he wins the election and Matt and Heather Glenn are finishing off their date. And then that sequence of him just walking through the crowd of people who are excited about Fisk, and he's lit in the red light, and he looks up, and him and Fisk are, well, Matt can't see, but, they're looking at it seems like they're looking at each other, and the episode ends. Awesome. To me, easily the best MCU show pilot, I think. And they've had some great pilots. I thought that the Miss Marvel pilot was exceptional. I thought the Moon Knight pilot was good. The Loki pilot was good. The WandaVision one was good. Like, a lot of the beginning, all the problems with the Marvel shows is they're usually not with the beginning. But I still think that this was the best start to a Marvel show. I understand I'm a bit biased in that, considering I'm a massive fan of the original series. But I thoroughly loved the pilot, and I thought they did an excellent job. Like, an excellent job on the pilot. You then get into episode 2. And episode 2, also very interesting, because it's also credited to the original showrunners, Matt and Chris, is it Ord, and the last names are leaving me, but so that just goes to show that a majority of the footage in the episode through WGA rules, it means that this was mostly their script. So I think there were a couple things that were added in from the reshoots. Where I think I can tell is because I think the storyline that they're doing with, I don't know this, by the way, this is speculation. I think the storyline that they're doing with Adam, the person that Fisk knows that Vanessa cheated on him with, I have a feeling that story is being added. I don't know that, again. And so I feel like any reference to that is added footage. But and also anything with Vanessa, period, like at the therapy session at the end with Heather Glenn, is reshot because they originally had recasted that role and then brought back the original actress. So, we know that at least was reshot and added into it. But diving into the episode, we get introduced to White Tiger, or at least the this version of White Tiger, and he's sees people messing with somebody. He doesn't have his magical amulet, which was a great line later in the episode. But he steps in to try to help. One of them trips, falls under the train tracks, gets hit by the subway, and the other one's a police officer. Shit! And so troubles are brewing. Matt overhears him getting abused at the police station, goes in to help him, and they have a really great scene together where he's kind of talking to him, and, he can hear the heartbeat. He knows he's not lying. He wants to help him, but he also knows he's hiding something. And, of course, he hires Cherry to investigate that and look into it. And on Fisk's side, he's dealing with mayoral stuff where, they're his secretary is telling him hey, it's really important. The first 100 days are important. You got to show appearances and all that. And then the guy's sitting in traffic and there's a hole and he's like, fuck this. And just goes and pulls a stunt to have the hole filled. I didn't even talk about Michael, the Sopranos kid. I haven't even talked about him in the first episode. He's in this episode as well. I thought he did a really wonderful job. I think, as I was watching it, they're doing something really interesting with that character, and it'll be very interesting to see. If I mess up anyone's names, by the way, put it in the live chat what they were, and I'll recorrect myself. Then after they fill that hole, and on Matt's side, they're doing the White Tiger case. Big surprise. They find out he's the White Tiger through Cherry's investigation, which I like the Cherry character a lot, by the way. And that obviously poses a problem for Matt and his defense because, the prosecution could then set a pattern of him going out looking for trouble, and he confronts White Tiger about it and says, hey, clearly you should have told me this, that you were the White Tiger, because now the defense or the prosecution is going to try to use this against me, and it's not going to look good. And he says a great line where he says, if I'm going to win this case, I need to know every way that I can lose it. So you have to be honest with me. That was a really good line. And the White Tiger telling him, just, look, I don't go out looking for trouble. I just try to help people. It's not like Daredevil's around anymore. And then it cuts to that shot on Matt where he's very in the center of the frame, kind of laughs at that. Thought that was a good shot. It then cuts to in the chambers of the judge's office, who, by the way, the judge immediately dismissed the idea of bail because it's a New York City police officer that was killed. I thought that was an interesting story beat. And, the prosecution has figured out that he's White Tiger as well. Good thing they have this information, and he's trying to block the prosecution from being able to introduce evidence about the White Tiger into the case. And, he gives a very good legal explanation. I know that they had lawyers consulted on the show on the original version, and since this script is written by the original showrunners, it's probably safe to assume that lawyer consulted on this episode. And he was like, look, this could be used to establish a pattern that isn't there because, nothing like that was involved. And in a very serious, gritty show, he says, my client did not have his magical amulet to help him out, which I just thought was funny. And seeing that go down was very funny. And, they're successful. The judge agrees that the prosecution cannot introduce any evidence involving him being the White Tiger. So small victory there. But they know that there's one thing left that they have to get, and that is the witness, the person who he saved and saw that the cops did not identify themselves and that they're lying on the stand. So, what are they going to do? They have to find the witness. He hires Cherry, he figures it out, he eventually goes out on his own, kind of like in the original Netflix series when he is following James Wesley around and he's picking up ticks on different things. He finds the witness. There's a really nice moment where he stops outside of a church and kind of, he won't go in, as if he doesn't deserve to go in, which I thought was an interesting bit, but he still hears the sermon through the door, and I just thought that was like a nice touching moment for Matt. Then he finds the witness, he goes in, and, to me, the best part of the episode, where he figures out that the cops are coming to kill this witness, the dirty cops, and he's like, hey, you need to get the fuck out of here. I have somebody in the park coming to get you. They're going to be here in 10 seconds. You need to get out the fire escape and go. So that's what he does. He runs out there, he leaves, and he just waits for him. And then when the cops open the door, he's just smiling at him. I loved that. And they're like, where is he? He says, I'm visually impaired. I wish I could help you. And something important to point out, the cop had a Punisher tattoo on his wrist. And as someone who's seen the whole season, will that get addressed later with Frank? No comment. But, he then starts getting the shit kicked out of him by these corrupt cops, and they're going to put a gun to his head. They're going to kill him. These cops are going to kill the lawyer on the case. They clearly did not give a shit about what repercussions that could have had or trying to cover that up. So, Fisk is the mayor, so eventually you'd have him in the pocket anyway. But they go to put the gun to his head. Matt is like, please don't do this. You don't want to do this. And he's not even begging for his life. He's just begging, like, please don't let me have to bring out this thing that I've tried for over a year to not bring out. But, of course, he has to. His life's at stake. He gets up. He whoops the shit out of these cops. He breaks one of their arms, and it's the scene from the trailer where you see the blood soak through the shirt. It looks fucking gross. Then he takes another guy and slams his neck and, like, collarbone into the ground, and it makes a horrific bone-crunching noise. This particular fight was edited a bit choppy, but the choreography was still pretty sound. It was mostly the editing that was the problem. But it was visceral, and you felt every hit. So, I think it was shot decently, choreographed decently, edited poorly. And Philip Cervera, who was brought back after the creative overhaul, who was like the fight coordinator, choreographer on season 1 and 2 of the original Daredevil, he could obviously only do new action scenes that were already shot. And if you look in the credits of this episode, he's not credited, meaning that all of these action scenes with White Tiger and with Daredevil were shot as part of the previous show, hence why it looks a little bit different from the Bullseye fight in episode 1 and, other stunts that you see later on in the show, which I won't get into. But, he beats the shit out of these guys and he just lets out a guttural fucking, and the episode ends. I think the series is off to a really good start. It's not perfect. It has some identity crisis issues, especially with, if you really look deep, you can tell where some of the reshot footage or the old footage comes into play. But I think the story they've set up and the new context they've added has fit pretty seamlessly. Like episode 2 felt like it could have been continued from episode 1, naturally. And, again, I've seen the whole show, so I don't want to, but from where we're at so far, I could definitely see people enjoying the journey so far. I promise you it's worth it. I'm obviously not going to give anything away about the future episodes, but the end of episode 3 is crazy. It's pretty awesome. And you guys are in for a treat whenever you get to next week. But yeah, that was, it was a hell of a journey. We'd waited for so long. I've watched both episodes like 4 fucking times. I'm just so excited to have the show back. I'm excited to have everybody back. It's so great. It's so much fun. Oh, I also didn't mention a little creepy kind of young adult goes up to Heather Glenn in the second episode, and I'll say there are a lot of theories online that it could be Muse, which we know is going to be in the show from the marketing. Again, as someone who has seen the rest of the show, no comment, but thought that was interesting to point out all the fan theories on that. And I love the reveal that Fisk and Vanessa are going to therapy, and that their therapist is Heather Glenn, fucking Matt's girlfriend. And because I genuinely don't think, when I was watching it at that time, I don't think that they know that that's the case. And I think that they don't know that, like, Matt and Heather are together. I feel like they just found a celebrity therapist because they're celebrities, and you'll have to see if that comes into play later with old Murdoch. So it'll be interesting regardless. But, typically at this point in the streams, which again, I've just started as my first one, this is where I'd kind of dive in and go to any live chat questions or any super chats if you felt, that you wanted to. Again, don't ever feel obligated to do that here. Don't have any at the moment, but this was still fun regardless. I love talking about the show. I love just looking into a camera and rambling about Daredevil. I could do it all day, every day, and I will be back next week, except it'll be right after the episode on Tuesday. And Nick sometimes will do these things with me. Life's busy for both of us, and, I've just committed to doing this mostly to get out of late night obligations, and so I can just talk about my geeky, nerdy stuff with, the community that I enjoy. But it'll be fun regardless. If you're watching, thank you so much for doing so. Hopefully on the next week we can get some more viewers in, some more chats in. It'll be a lot of fun. And even if we don't, even if no one comments, no one does anything, I'm having so much fun just doing these with everybody. I'm going to continue doing them all throughout the season. I'm really liking Daredevil Born Again so far. I've seen the whole show. It fucking rules, guys. The finale is so fucking good. So make sure you stick around and watch the whole thing. But yes, we got somebody. Samsy24 enjoyed it. Yes, thank you. Thank you for chiming in. But guys, that will do it for today's live stream of episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil. Catch us next week on Tuesday night. Right after the episode, we're going to be doing episode 3 live spoiler discussion. I would love to hear everybody's thoughts. And Hannah Heiler, my better half, says it's great to hear your thoughts. Thank you. And guys, again, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun, and we will see you on the next one.